Some say a photograph captures a moment in time, a frozen memory, preserved forever. But what if it captures something else? Something that wasn't there when the shutter clicked? A shadow behind the curtain, a face in the mirror that no one remembers, a figure standing just out of focus. Tonight, we're diving into 3 true horror stories where the camera caught far more than anyone expected. These are images that haunt, confuse, and remain unexplained to this day. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, one thing is certain: these photographs are not easily forgotten. Story 1. The birthday photo. It was supposed to be just another family gathering, a simple celebration of Emily's 8th birthday. Balloons, cake, laughter, and a dozen of her closest friends from school all gathered in her suburban backyard on a mild September afternoon in 2007. Her parents, Rachel and Mark, had rented a bounce house, set up games, and arranged for a local photographer to capture the event. Nothing extraordinary, just another milestone preserved in pictures and memories. The photographer, a middle-aged woman named Carla who specialized in children's events, moved discreetly around the yard with her Canon DSLR, capturing candid moments and posed portraits of kids playing and parents chatting. She took over 300 pictures that day, all saved to an SD card that she delivered to Rachel a week later on a CD-ROM. Rachel didn't look at them right away. Life got busy, and the CD sat untouched on her kitchen counter for nearly 2 weeks. When she finally loaded the photos onto her laptop one night, she was smiling at the slideshow of cheerful scenes. Emily grinning with frosting on her face, kids scrambling in the bounce house, Mark flipping burgers on the grill. Then she paused on one particular image. It was a group shot taken at the height of the party. About 10 children clustered around the picnic table, laughing with plastic cups in hand, paper party hats tilted at odd angles. And behind them, standing between 2 lilac trees at the edge of the yard, was a man. At first, Rachel thought it might have been one of the dads, but the more she stared, the more unsettled she became. The man was tall, abnormally so, at least 6'6", with a long, narrow face and no discernible expression. He wore a brown tweed suit that looked decades out of fashion. His hands hung stiffly at his sides, and his head was tilted slightly, almost like he was listening to something. His face was blurred, not by motion, but by some sort of visual distortion, as if the pixels in that area had been smeared unnaturally. No one in the photo seemed to notice him. Not a single child or adult was looking in his direction. Rachel immediately called Mark over. "Do you recognize him?" she asked. Mark squinted at the screen, his brows pulling together. "No, I don't remember anyone like that at the party." They checked other pictures, dozens of them. In 1 or 2, the man appeared partially in the background, a sliver of his shoulder near the garage, the tip of his shoe near the bounce house, but in each one, his presence seemed just out of place enough to raise alarm. Not central, never interacting, just watching. Rachel called Carla, the photographer, and asked if she'd seen the man during the shoot. "What man?" Carla asked. "No one like that was there. I would have noticed someone that tall." Rachel sent her the photo. Carla went quiet for several seconds. "That's not possible," she said finally. "I remember taking this shot. I was standing right next to the table. I would have seen him. He wasn't there." Still unsettled, Rachel showed the photo to Emily. The little girl stared at it for a while, then pointed casually at the man. "That's the tall, whispering man," she said. Rachel's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Emily shrugged. "He was by the trees. He told me not to tell anybody." Rachel tried to get more information, but Emily clammed up, suddenly pale and quiet. That night, she had a nightmare so violent she woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. She wouldn't say what it was about. Over the next few weeks, strange things began to happen in the house. The family cat, Biscuit, refused to go near the back door, hissing at nothing and scratching at the floors. Emily complained about cold drafts in her room, even when the windows were closed. Rachel began hearing soft knocks on the glass doors at night, always 3 knocks, perfectly spaced. And once, when she checked, she saw the shape of a tall figure standing at the far end of the yard before disappearing behind the lilac trees. Convinced someone was stalking their family, Mark installed security cameras around the house. They picked up nothing unusual. No tall figures. No prowlers. Yet the sense of unease only deepened. Emily began sleepwalking, once found standing barefoot in the yard at 3:14 a.m., staring at the trees. They took the photo to the police. An officer looked it over and admitted it was disturbing, but without evidence of a break-in or criminal behavior, there was nothing they could do. Rachel posted the photo anonymously on a parenting forum, asking if anyone recognized the man. Within a day, her post was removed. The only response she received was a private message. "He's been in other photos, from other families. Don't look for him." Rachel saved a screenshot of the message before it vanished from her inbox. The user who sent it no longer existed. Eventually, life moved on. Emily's nightmares faded. Rachel deleted the rest of the birthday photos, but kept the group shot with the tall man, in a password-protected folder on an old hard drive, just in case. They moved houses the following year, never again experiencing anything strange. But in 2018, 11 years later, Rachel received a Facebook message from a woman named Janine Walker. The subject line simply read, "Do you remember this man?" Attached was a photo from a Halloween party. A group of children posed in costumes on a front lawn, and there, behind them, between two bushes, stood the same tall man. Brown suit, blurred face, tilted head. Janine had never seen Rachel's photo. They lived in different states, different social circles, but the man was identical. Now, Rachel doesn't open emails from unknown senders. She doesn't upload photos of Emily to social media. She even avoids group photos altogether. Because every once in a while, the man appears again, in someone else's picture, in someone else's story, and no one knows who he is, or why he always seems to be watching. Story 2, Static Behind the Smile. It was the fall of 2011 when Jordan transferred to Crescent Ridge High School, a quiet, tree-shrouded school tucked deep in rural Washington. His parents had recently divorced, and the move was meant to give him a fresh start. But Jordan didn't care about fresh starts. He kept his head down, earbuds in, hoodie up, just another faceless junior trying to survive the school year. That's when he met Claire. Claire Whitmore was everything Jordan wasn't. Popular, bubbly, always surrounded by a tight-knit group of girls who followed her lead like ducklings. But she wasn't cruel. On Jordan's third day, she caught him sitting alone at lunch and flashed him a wide, gleaming smile that felt oddly practiced. Then she waved him over. "You don't have to eat by yourself, you know," she said, patting the empty seat beside her. Surprised but grateful, Jordan joined her. Her friends stared at him like he was a stray dog, but Claire talked to him like they'd known each other for years. It was disarming, the way she seemed to know things about him without ever asking, like that he hated spicy food or that he played guitar. He never told her those things. She just guessed. From that day on, Claire was a constant in Jordan's life. Cheerful, charming, a little strange. She had a vintage VHS camcorder she brought everywhere, always filming. School hallways, study sessions, even Jordan fumbling through Guitar Hero in his bedroom. "I like capturing moments," she'd say, zooming in on his face with a giggle. Because people forget. He started calling her Static Girl, not to her face, but in his head, because whenever she filmed, there was always this faint buzzing noise, like actual static. She claimed it was just a defect in the old camcorder, but it persisted no matter where they went. One afternoon in October, Claire invited Jordan to her house to help her archive some tapes. He followed her through winding rural back roads until they reached a crumbling Victorian house nestled between thick pine trees. The place looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 70s. Yellowed curtains, wood-paneled walls, and stacks of unlabeled VHS tapes lined the living room. Jordan noticed something strange. None of the tapes had dates or titles, just plain black spines. Some were blank. Others had single names scrawled on them: Marcy, Delaney, Suzanne, but Jordan didn't recognize any of them. "Who are these people?" he asked. Claire shrugged. "Just people I used to know." As they watched a few clips, Jordan saw footage of Claire at various ages, always smiling, always filming someone else. The girls in the tapes would laugh, dance, and then slowly change. Smiles fading, eyes looking confused, then frightened, then static. Always static. "Why are they all scared at the end?" Jordan asked. Claire didn't answer. That night, Jordan went home with a tape Claire had slipped into his bag. No label, just black. Curiosity ate at him until he slid it into his dad's old VCR. The footage began with Claire's smile, close up, distorted slightly as if the tape had degraded. Then it cut to a birthday party, balloons, cake, singing. Jordan squinted. He didn't remember being there. Then he saw himself. It was him, standing awkwardly at the edge of the group, holding a cup, wearing the same flannel shirt he wore the day Claire filmed him in his room. The party didn't look familiar, but he was there. Everyone was smiling, but only Claire was looking at the camera. And behind her, just barely visible near the corner of the frame, was a figure. Tall, featureless, blurred like a glitch. Static crackled louder now. Jordan yanked the tape out. He confronted Claire the next day, waving the cassette in front of her face. "What is this? That wasn't a memory. That never happened." She just smiled. Not yet. Over the next week, Jordan began seeing the static outside the tapes. It started as flickers in the hallway lights. His phone screen would glitch when Claire texted. His reflection in mirrors would lag half a second behind. And every night, he dreamed of a party he didn't remember, always ending with a loud, static scream and Claire's face turning to face the camera. He tried to pull away from her, stopped answering her texts, avoided her at school, but she always found him, sitting next to him in class, appearing behind him in the library, smiling, filming. The final straw came when Jordan's dad went missing. One night he was home watching TV, and the next morning, gone. No signs of forced entry. No note. Just a VHS tape on the kitchen counter labeled James. Jordan didn't watch it. He ran. He told the police everything about Claire, the tapes, the static, the camcorder. They checked the house. The tapes were gone. The furniture was covered in plastic like no one had lived there in years. No trace of Claire Whitmore in school records. No birth certificate. No medical files. No yearbook photos. It was like she'd never existed. Months passed. Jordan moved to Oregon with his mother. Tried to rebuild. But sometimes, when he walked through a crowd, he'd hear it. Faint buzzing. Static behind laughter. Behind someone's smile. Once, he saw a girl on the street filming with a vintage camcorder, and he nearly passed out. Years later, in 2020, a Reddit user named MissingFrames94 posted a grainy VHS clip on r/unresolved mysteries. The video showed a birthday party. At the edge of the frame was a tall figure, blurred and twitching. In the foreground, a girl with perfect teeth and dead eyes smiled directly into the camera. One comment read, "I knew her. Her name was Claire. She never aged. She always filmed, and no one ever remembered the ending." Jordan didn't comment. He just unplugged his computer, closed the blinds, and waited for the static. Story 3. The Man in the Mirrorless Shot. In early autumn of 2019, photography student Natalie Bowers was working on her senior project for the University of Michigan's arts program. Her theme centered on reflection and absence, portraits of people in mirrors, windows, or puddles. With a twist, the subject would never directly face the lens. Her goal was to capture the presence of a person through indirect imagery, relying on texture, light, and composition. One particular location caught her eye, an old farmhouse outside the town of Ypsilanti, known locally as the Cadwell Place. It had been abandoned for decades, its white paint peeling, windows clouded with grime, and ivy creeping up every side. According to local legend, the farmhouse once belonged to a family who vanished in the 1960s, leaving dinner still warm on the table. Natalie, of course, chalked it up to urban myth. But the eerie feel of the location suited her theme perfectly. She obtained permission from the town to photograph the exterior. No one said anything about going inside, but Natalie assumed if she didn't disturb anything, it'd be fine. Accompanied by her best friend and model for the day, DeAndre, they arrived on a cloudy Saturday morning. Inside, the air smelled of mold and old wood. Dust floated in heavy patches, and light filtered through torn curtains in soft beams. They set up a few shots in the foyer, then moved to a back parlor, where a large, ornately framed mirror still hung on the wall, cracked in one corner, but otherwise intact. Natalie positioned DeAndre just to the left of the mirror, asking him to face away from it so only the back of his head and shoulder would be seen in the reflection. She adjusted the exposure and focus manually on her mirrorless digital camera, snapping multiple frames. When they returned to campus later that day, Natalie uploaded the files. One photo immediately caught her attention. It was a beautifully composed shot. The soft gold of the afternoon light reflected off the mirror perfectly, highlighting the rough texture of the wooden walls and DeAndre's silhouette. But something else was in the mirror. A man. Standing behind DeAndre in the reflection was a tall, pale man in an old-fashioned black suit. His face was expressionless, his eyes too wide, lips parted as if caught mid-whisper. His hand rested on DeAndre's shoulder, only in the reflection. In the original scene, Natalie swore there had been no one behind him. She assumed it was a trick of the light, maybe a double exposure or digital artifact. She zoomed in. The man's eyes were not just wide, they were wrong. The irises were pinpricks. The whites of his eyes looked discolored, like decayed film. His mouth hung open wider now that she studied it, but there were no teeth, only a dark void inside. Natalie showed DeAndre. He immediately became unsettled. "I felt cold there," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Like something was watching us the whole time." They both laughed it off. Natalie posted the photo on her portfolio website under the title Presence Absence, Cadwell Shot 4. It received hundreds of comments, many praising the haunting quality of the image. But over the next few days, strange things began happening. Her camera started turning on by itself in the middle of the night. She would wake up to find dozens of images in her SD card, all pitch black. Some had distorted audio clips attached when she previewed them on her computer. Whispers, static, occasional soft knocking. One file, IMG6666, wouldn't open at all. When she finally managed to extract it, it was a photo of her bedroom, taken from inside her closet. She lived alone. Natalie moved out of her apartment the next morning. A few days later, she noticed something else on the original Cadwell mirror photo. In the bottom right corner, partially obscured by the cracked glass, was a faint reflection of herself. But she didn't remember stepping into frame. Her expression was blank, mouth slack, eyes wide, and the man was looking directly at her. She tried deleting the image. Her system crashed. She used another computer. Same thing. She reformatted the SD card. It reappeared a day later on a fresh card. Emailing it to a classmate, the file attached itself to the reply and corrupted it. Natalie began to suffer from insomnia. She'd wake up certain she'd heard footsteps circling her bed. Shadows stretched unnaturally long in her new apartment, bending toward her no matter the light source. Every mirror she owned, from her bathroom to the compact in her bag, seemed to fog up slightly when she passed by, as if something was exhaling behind the glass. She returned to the farmhouse with a local paranormal investigator. The building had been boarded up. Apparently, someone reported unauthorized entry days earlier. Natalie was never caught. But the investigator found something buried in the garden behind the house. A stack of 6 photographs, all water-damaged but visible. Each one showed the same man, the same black suit, the same blank expression. In one photo, he was standing in the background of a 1950s family picnic. In another, watching from a window as children played outside. The final photo was the worst, a mirror shot from inside the farmhouse parlor. The reflection showed the man, and a young woman who looked exactly like Natalie, only her clothes were from the 1960s. Natalie quit the photography program 2 weeks later. She stopped answering emails. Her website disappeared. Her last Instagram post, dated October 17, 2019, is a blurry, dark photo with the caption, "Not a reflection, a door." She hasn't been seen or heard from since. And according to campus rumors, the Cadwell mirror is missing. The frame still hangs on the wall of the farmhouse. Empty. Some images linger longer than they should, burned into memory, not because of what they show, but because of what they suggest. A smile that doesn't belong. A figure that was never there. A gaze that pierces through time, space, and logic. These photos remain etched in digital archives and dusty drawers, defying explanation. Maybe it's a glitch. Maybe it's something else entirely. But one thing is certain. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. Sleep tight. And maybe think twice before taking that next photo.